Hi, I'm Jessie Ahmet, your host of Valley News Now, here with Veronica Redfield.
Hi.
Hello from Fed Resource ND.
Yep.
And we're going to kind of do like a regular segment where we talk financial stuff. And I'm
Yep.
so glad to have you. So thank you so much for taking time to come over.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are talking nest eggs today.
Yes.
All right, before we go there, I kind of jumped in just like everything. I'm going to bring you to the website, fedresourcend.com. And I just love this. I love you don't have to do this alone, because it just feels so like you're not alone.
Right.
And it's because retirement's scary. Anything financial is scary for most of us. It's like, it's just your language. So it's so great to be able to come to you and you're like, no, I got you. It's okay. And I was laughing to myself this morning, digging for my keys, and I found my pocket knife that I got from you.
I forgot.
That says you don't have to do this alone. Every time I'm like,
Oh, that breath, right?
that breath, that's what you bring to it, is just that oh, this is not that hard. We can do it together. It is not nearly the mountain you think it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes people just sitting across the table, that's just all they need is
Yeah.
to sit there and be reiterated, like, this is okay.
Yeah.
This is what we do. You're normal.
Right.
You're normal when you're fear. You're
Yeah.
normal when you have anxiety.
Yes.
And overly excited, like all of the emotions
Yep.
is completely normal for retirement, because a lot of people get scared.
Oh, it's very scary, because you just feel like, I don't understand these words. The whole thing is so overwhelming. Like day to day, I feel like you struggle with finances. So how in the world can I even attempt to think that I could not work at some point?
Yes.
But I mean, from personal experience, going in thinking, I don't know how to pay my monthly bills, to oh, I'm okay.
Right.
Like, I'm actually okay.
And the problem is just like that, like people
Yeah.
put things off because of the fear.
Right.
And sometimes like just the act of actually organizing yourself and putting it together is such a huge relief.
Yeah.
And then you feel a little bit of courage and you're like, yes, I
Yeah.
can do this. I can go forward then.
Yes.
Baby steps. Because like one of the first things I tell people, if you're not sure what to do, grab a folder. Maybe we said this the last time. I feel like it
Maybe.
sounds familiar. Maybe because I say it all the time. Grab a folder, put everything in there, and just start collecting documents.
Yeah.
So that like if you do decide to come see somebody to get some help, you're already started.
Yep.
And it's least. It's not as like a big obstacle when you
Right.
do one little thing at a time. Like, what do they say? Take one bite of the elephant at a time. One
True.
statement at a time.
Just one.
One thing that I have no idea what this is, but I'm sure it's important. Put it in the folder.
Yeah. And then it could bring it to you and you're like, yep, I got this. It's like, I mean, I don't know why we think that we're supposed to do that or be able to do that on our own. Right now what's coming to me is kind of like you would never go to the doctor and think you have to do your own surgery.
You would never do your own root canal.
No.
I mean,
and
I'm sure.
you don't even think that you would need to understand that this is actually exactly the same.
Yep. What is this? I heard a phrase not too long ago, and it says Google has a lot of wisdom, but it doesn't have the knowledge to apply the wisdom. So, like, you can Google everything.
Right.
I say Mr. Google is helpful, but not. Just like don't go to WebMD for your symptoms.
Right. That's
You
just
know,
scary and bad. Yeah.
There's a lot of resources there, but to actually apply the information and actually make sure that whoever sponsored that search, you're not
Right.
getting like the full picture or the wrong
Right.
picture. And then how does it apply to your life? Because like you can always see when you do a search, it says sponsored, and who pays for what words.
Right.
So to be able to get the information and then make sure you fully understand it, it's not biased, and then to apply it to your own situation.
And everybody's situation is different, and that's what we go to an expert for.
Exactly.
So I like to say too, like, none of our segments are sponsored, but this isn't sponsored by
Right.
Veronica. It's
Nope.
just she's got the knowledge, and I want to share that with you guys because it feels really overwhelming, but it can make such a difference in your life, and just in like your stress level day to day. But also, you're going to enjoy your retirement,
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and then I tell people now too, like I used to say that my clients are like my family, which they are. They're totally like my family. But I've kind of shifted it from Sue, the gal in our office. She's like, it's like meeting with your best friend.
It is. It's like the family you choose.
Right. And like if you think of you working with like your trusted best friend, they've got your best interest at heart. They're not going to screw around with you.
Yep.
They're not going to tell you to do something you shouldn't. They're going to give it to you straight.
Right.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
So I always said family, but we do choose some family, right?
Yeah, we do.
We
Yeah.
love them, but they're not all always ideal.
Right. Yes.
Right?
So this is more like your best friend
Yeah.
or your family that you would choose if you could choose your family.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it's so nice to feel like you're just, you're not out to do out for a personal gain or out for like you said, it's not, they're not things that are sponsored. You just really want to get people to that goal,
right?
Which is really cool.
And to feel comfortable and to be open.
Yep.
I had one guy one time, he told me, well, I'm not going to tell you everything. Well, your information I'm going to give you is only as good as what you give me.
Yep.
So if you don't trust me, clearly we're not a good fit, and maybe we
Right.
shouldn't work together.
Right.
You should find someone that you're willing to tell everyone, which granted he did tell me finally, because I laid it out. I was like, well, I'm only going to give you what you give me.
Well, it's kind of the same as health. If you go and you don't tell all of the symptoms, well,
Right.
it's kind of hard to help you
Yeah.
then if you don't have all the information. So
Exactly. Your diagnosis is going to get a little off without some certain key elements that you
Yep.
say.
And you feel so comfortable too. It's a not, no judgment. I mean, I just remember sitting down with you one of the first times and I was like, okay, I'm not going to spend anything on this. And you're like, okay, that's ridiculous. You will spend some money on entertainment and on clothes because I know you.
Right.
Like, okay, you're right. So let's just put it in the budget.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I have people who had credit card debt, and the
Yeah.
reason they have credit card debt is they don't have a savings account. Like, everybody needs to have a savings account. So they feel like they're going to put everything into their credit card payments, which, yes, we want to pay it down,
Right.
whatever route we go, but then you're just going to end up back in the same spot if you don't start refiguring and, like, creating a budget. Sure, maybe it'll take you 3 years instead of 2, but you got to live, you got to prepare so that you don't get back into that cycle.
Yep.
So you can't just
It's not just a switch.
Yeah,
It's you got to figure out how to do that. And to have somebody be able to tell you it's okay to still spend money while you're paying down this debt. You don't have to live like a miser and put all the, that's not enjoyable either.
No, and life is short, and that's my whole thing. Like, if you save everything for the future and you don't enjoy today, what happens if you're gone tomorrow?
Right.
So like, you have to live today, and I'm all about memories and doing the best that you can. Like, my husband, when he bought, what is it, a PS5 or Xbox or something, he's like, gosh, this is so expensive. I'm like, but the hours you'll spend on it, and of course in my mind, you'll depreciate it over time.
Right.
And it's way cheaper than other things you could buy. So I was like, buy the darn thing. Whatever it is, buy it.
Just buy it. You will enjoy it. I mean, if it's something like that,
Well,
I
and
love that.
he's not going to spend money going out and doing this or that. It's going to be one big upfront cost, but then it'll be life, like lots of hours of back time stuff.
Yeah.
Not that he plays it all the time. Let me get that disclaimer so I don't get in trouble. But we had this conversation probably
it's fun
5,
and
10
it's
years ago.
entertainment. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so it is, yes, again, kind of this not overwhelming, just knowing that you don't have to do it alone, and that she makes it work for your life. So I'm going to bring them to the website really fast. All right, fedresourcend.com. And then do you want to go right to the nest egg example?
Yep, let's do that.
Okay, so we are going here. Just going to make this as large as I can. I think I'm there. Okay, so this is you. Here, I'm going to take this up so we can read this better. Okay, so this is, it said client, we're like, how can we make people understand? So this is you, so put you in this. So this is, for me, this is Jessie. And then we're going to look at all these different categories. So I'll let you take it from there.
So, when I'm referring to that folder, like, all of these categories pertain to you. So, like, when you start to build this, if you haven't done it before, when you do a full financial plan for somebody, you want to kind of hit all areas. So let's just pick one. So family, family is, are you providing? Do you have children with special needs? Do you take care of your parents? Will you be taking care of your parents? What happens if you pass?
Right.
Money management, it's not just about how much money you have, but what are you doing with it? How is it invested? Where do you have it? Current rates are great right now. Do you have any safe money?
Right. I mean, and this, just to interrupt you, I mean, you help me with that too. It's like you can just easily put it in this savings account instead of this savings account. And I mean, now I've watched the interest come in the last few months. I'm like, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it's nice to actually make some money on safe money.
I know. I'm like, instead of like $3 interest, it's like 100 and whatever. It's
right?
like, ooh, I like this.
Rates are great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just where you're putting your buckets. And then you have income planning. It's not just, what you're making, but where is it coming from? Will it last forever? Or is there a time frame to it? Like, there's so many variables into that. Risk analysis and inflation. Now, risk can cover not just your investments, but it can be like your long-term risk, sequence of return risk. Like, there's so many different risks when you get into the financial world without trying to get into those technical terms.
Sure.
That, do you risk running out of money? Do you risk what happens if your health fails? I mean, like, there's so many different
things that most of us want to just go like la 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 la.
Exactly.
But that does not help anything.
No. And some people have a higher risk tolerance than others.
Yeah.
So knowing where you're at is appropriate to say, okay, well, you have a higher risk tolerance, so that's okay.
Right.
I mean, I had a gal, I love this little gal. Remember, there's no advice being given today.
Right.
It's all education. I'm not a CPA. I'm not giving any advice today, but I had a gal come in and I loved her. I still love her. She's my client. And she came, she's like, I want stocks. I want to invest in stocks.
Okay.
So I did a risk assessment with her and
Yeah.
she scored a 34. 34 doesn't mean you fail. What 34 means is you're a very conservative person.
Okay.
So if we would have put her in something like stocks, then she would have, any market turbulence, any loss, then she wouldn't handle it. That's not okay. So I said, okay, well, we can do a little bit of that, but not, I want stocks, like 100%. Like if I would have listened to her and just did what she wanted, that would have not have been okay thing. So that's where more questions and things like that come in to make sure it's the right thing.
Yeah, which is what saves us in the end. You
Yes.
know? Or if there's someone who's like, yeah, I can tolerate that.
Yeah.
Then okay, we'll throw you in the deep water and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and then your risk changes over time. I often tell people,
sure.
like, when you're in your younger years, you probably have the highest risk tolerance ever, potentially, even though I have been a conservative the majority of my life, maybe because of my knowledge, I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
And I tell people when you retire, it's like you tighten up. You're
Yep.
like, oh, this big scary thing's coming. Like, can I do this? Is it really real? And then what happens is when you retire, then you're just, you breathe a little bit. You don't necessarily always go up higher, some do, but once you actually get through that retirement phase, like I can really do this is okay.
Yeah, like I'm surviving.
You're
okay,
past
I
the
see.
100% fear.
Yes.
You actually relax a little bit, and then I'm always interested in people's, like, where their risk level goes, because a number is just a number. It doesn't mean this is the final, this is what you do, but it gives me a starting point of, making sure, along with other questions that I ask.
A great thing to do, along with, like you said, you could have just went, okay, we're doing stocks. That's what you want to do.
But that's not what
let's find out if you really want to do
ask
stocks.
more questions.
Yeah, you might have just watched a really cool movie where they did a lot of stocks. Because I know I get that way. Ooh, I want to do that now.
Or remember the worst people to get advice from. Do you
yes,
remember?
no, family, friends.
Yep. Coworkers.
Oh, coworkers. I was going to say TikTok again.
I mean, TikTok maybe. You probably have some right there too. But yes, so, she comes in saying that this is what she wants because everybody talks about it, not fully understanding it, and that's why it's like, probably not. We'll put a little bit.
Let's dig a little deeper and see if that's what you really want.
Yes.
Because we get excited, we get influenced by other people in our lives that even may be well-meaning, but their situation can be totally different than our situation.
Or they just didn't understand what it meant.
Right.
Like they just copied what their friends say.
Yeah.
They come in, and then when I explain it, like, oh, I don't want that. Okay.
I thought it was just like making money. Who knows?
No. Taxes. I think taxes is a huge part. Like one of the quotes that I heard was, "Your retirement's infected with taxes."
That's a good one.
And the tax code is written in pencil. So ask yourself: do you think taxes are going to go up? Do you think they're going to stay the same?
Right.
And another thought, analogy that I heard too is, like, if you believe in the IRA and the reason the IRA was established, which was to defer taxes, assuming you'll be in a lower tax bracket later, you follow that route.
Okay.
If you don't believe the IRA is going to do its job because you think taxes are actually going to go up, well, then you need some tax planning in your
never
plan.
thought of that
well,
at all.
And I could dig into that a lot deeper, but I'm not going to overwhelm everybody today.
We're going to do this regularly, so we'll get into some of these topics a little bit deeper as we go.
Absolutely. So today it's just general. And then I have federal benefits listed here because I do work with a lot of federal employees, but this could be any state employees where they have their pensions, any of the few that maybe are left that they still offer some sort of pension or benefits that you can potentially carry into retirement. I always tell my clients that if they have some benefit, like some plan benefits, like whether federal, state, or anything else, that's one of the first things you need to figure out before you do the rest of the retirement.
I suppose.
Because every circle here affects the next circle. Yeah. So if you need to figure out what your eligibility is, or the first time you're able to receive a pension, anything like that, if you don't know that, you could be just screwing up your whole plan.
Right. Yeah. And so that's another good thing to point out too with Fed Resource ND, that is one of your specialties.
Yes.
And I would imagine there is a lot of a lot of words and a lot of red tape and a lot of stuff to understand. So
there is. Yeah. And again, I enjoy this. It's kind of fun for me, not for the people coming in, where they say these acronyms and these things, and they're mixing it with Social Security or the federal benefits or something else someone else said. And so it's a whole complex situation to itself.
But it just lights you up. It's awesome.
It does.
Like, I love it.
I'm like, give me a challenge. What am I trying to answer for you? I do. Like,
you do, and that's what's so great about all of our gifts. Is that when it's your thing, it's just like, just go talk to her. You don't need to know the thing. She's like excited right now, really excited.
Right. Well, and like I have clients sometimes, like if they purchase a product and I'm trying to understand why, and they are like, I have no idea. They told me to do it. Well, okay. Well, keep talking. Tell me a little more. Like, was this something for lifetime income? You know, was this something for this? Like, what was the easy things that you remember why?
Right.
And if they can, then I can start digging in deep.
Okay.
But if they can't and they just said someone told me to do it, then we just have to figure out how does it work.
Okay,
You know,
sure.
but yeah, so I mean, like, that's literally half of my conversation sometimes, where people they don't have a plan, they have products, and they have all these different things in different sections, and my job is to figure out how do we now put these together so they make sense.
Right. And with you in the center, I mean, just to go back to that graph, I mean, just because I've worked with you enough now to know with you in the center, how do all of these things benefit you? And you know, so like you said, these benefits you need to understand, and how do we go forward?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then enhanced planning, that's kind of, you know, some people when you say legacy planning, they think I don't have a legacy, you know, I don't have anything. And that's not the case. Enhanced planning, something always happens when something happens. Like if you have a passing or a health issue or divorce, or you know, you're taking care of a parent, what's next? You know, are your assets titled properly so that if you and your spouse, for example, one of you pass, will it go to your spouse or will it go to partially your kids?
Yeah.
There is incorrect titling that could do that. Or you pass, and what happens to your house? Do you have the deed labeled correctly? Like, if I lose my marbles, you know, who do I want to make decisions for me?
And do that now, so that, you know, when it happens. My past, I worked in a nursing home for a really long time, and you would see that very often, unfortunately, where things weren't worded correctly, or it was like, well, no, she told me she wanted me to make those decisions. Well, then the person themselves waited too long, and then now they can't make that decision for themselves, and those wishes weren't put in place.
Yes.
So it's just, it might seem scary and morbid, but it's so smart to do that ahead of time, just in case.
And it's not fun, and I promise you, it's not fun.
Yeah.
But what is better is, I don't care how well everybody gets along. When you have a loss, there are fights.
There
You
are.
know, there are disgruntles. Like, so the more you can do to set up everything,
Yes,
the better.
to
because
prevent that.
It doesn't matter how well everyone gets along.
No.
When there is money involved or potential, it happens. I mean, I maybe am on the other side where I hear more of the not so good stories, but I hear enough of them that I make sure that we're set up. So if something happens, there is no argument because we have it.
Yep.
We have everything going where it's supposed to.
And I think a lot of that is even, I mean, money does do that, but I think it also is related to grief. And, you know,
It
people
is.
are taking out their emotions in a tangible way. And so there's a lot of reasons that those things happen. But I just, too, personal experience, my grandma had everything just done. Just, you know, like funeral plan, paid for, everything just to the letter. And it was so nice for the family. And it really helped a lot of that fighting just go, because it, you know, they weren't using their grief or their emotions to, you know, talk about, well, who gets this and who gets that, and, you know, who has to pay for this and who has to pay for that. It's just, there it is in black and white.
Well, and that's a big point to hit on, like the grief. Like, if you have everything set up, they can grieve without the fight. Like, exactly like you're saying, like, they can actually, they have a set of instructions, they follow this to the best of their ability, you know, how well it's laid out, and they're allowed to grieve versus get upset with siblings or relatives that decide to come in from out of the woodwork because they need whatever. Like, so, and it is huge because it's just, it's so hard when someone loses someone. Like, my widows are my second passion. Like, federal employees are my niche, but my widows, like, to have someone who is 100% behind them to make the decisions, because guess what? When someone passes, you get advice from everywhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
well-meaning.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But sometimes people do come out of the woodwork to, you know, take what they see as an opportunity, which is awful. But
well, right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and that's not okay.
No.
I always tell people, when someone passes, you don't make any big decisions for at least a year.
Oh, wow. Good advice.
And some of my advice from clients, like, and this is her words, like, unless your pants are on fire, you don't do anything. And because she lost her spouse and there was just so much coming out, I'm like, you know what, breathe. Yeah. We're not doing anything. One thing at a time.
And you think you're supposed to,
and
too.
you
So
don't.
that's, again, why you need someone, is that to just say, no, you're okay. Just breathe for a minute. We'll get through this together. Don't have to do it alone.
Exactly. yes. Oh, and long-term care. I always tell people, long-term care, either have a plan for it, meaning you purchase some sort of insurance product potentially, or you just know, or you save. I mean, there's so many. There's no right or wrong. Like, I'm a believer in long-term care, but I also believe it's not for everyone. I mean, my father passed away. He was 59, and he lived in a nursing home for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but he was not an advocate, or he was not someone who needed long-term care. He didn't have enough assets.
Yeah.
My mother and father were divorced. When he went into the home, they took his house. I mean, it wasn't, he didn't need to, it wasn't in his cards.
Right.
But that the biggest thing that I think a long-term care plan is good for is the family protection, because as, you know, a daughter whose father needed care, there was a line I was not crossing.
Right.
And so, you know, when it came to that part, that's why I think long-term care is important. Yes, protect your assets, but to keep that relationship and not cause friction.
Right. And not money's it's just a terrible thing at times. People get passionate, they get scared, they come at you with fear, you know, all the different things. So yeah, you're right. It's something nobody really wants to think about, but it's better to plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just or understand. These are the consequences. That's my goal. Is like whether you want to or not, totally fine. I'm going to say this is what it is. This is what it would cost if you do need it, whether you do or not. You know, these are other alternatives.
Yeah.
You make a
Make
choice.
your decision.
Yep.
But at least you're making a decision rather than having a decision made for you.
And you don't live in regret. That's the biggest thing. Is I've had people come in and I didn't know that. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas because no one told me.
Right.
No, this eliminates that. So that's why I'm like, whatever your plan is, we just go and do it the best we can. I'll say if I think you should have it or not, but it's ultimately your choice.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay, I think we have one more on there.
Yes, life transitions. Well, that's, you know, when you retire, when you change jobs, you start, your kids move back in, your parents move in, divorce, death, like everything like that. It affects every other circle, which is why I say you kind of got to plan with all of them, because every change you make in each circle changes the rest of them.
And I mean, chances are we like to think like, oh, this is my life and it's going to go like this. But chances are you're going to have one, if not more, unexpected life transitions.
Absolutely. Right? Or if it's going that perfect, it's because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You have no idea what you just missed or what you just did.
Right. So to plan for that is a brilliant idea.
Yes.
Yeah. So then when it does come, you're like, I've planned for life transition ? I don't know what it's going to be, but I know there'll be something at some point. And if there's nothing, then yay.
Great.
Yeah.
But the best part of having a plan when life happens is, guess what? It's so much easier to pivot than to start say, okay, where am I? To know where do I need to go. Like, but if you have a plan in place, like the biggest life transition that I've had for clients and like planning is the 2015 Bipartisan Act, where Social Security took away advanced filing strategies. So I had people that could retire earlier because of the way we could use those.
Okay.
And so when they took those away or they grandfathered them out, depending on age, I had to go back and redo plans and take that off. And so I had to tell people, you can't retire now.
Right.
Which makes sense.
Changed.
Yeah.
But again, you wouldn't know that if you weren't going to somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah, you would have no idea, and you'd probably hear something about it, and then you kind of do this again and think, okay, well, I'll just deal with it when I have to.
Exactly.
And then it's going to be so stressful.
Right. And there's so many other scenarios that maybe we'll have one of just life transitions one day. And, this is the things that you should be looking at and doing or seeing if you fall into this category, you know, so that you ask, because there is just so much out there that, like you said, people wouldn't know. And
no, there's no way you would know. You can't keep up on all the things, you know.
I mean, I do it and it's a full-time job.
Right,
so.
exactly. That's why you go to you. That's why when I need, you know, heart surgery, I go to the person that keeps up on that.
Yes.
You know?
Well, and they always say, like, if you're going to find an advisor, for example, to work with, you should just think that they're going to improve your plan.
Yeah.
You know, there's do-it-yourselfers out there. Fine, do it yourself. But there's people who, when I retire, I just want to enjoy retirement. I don't want to think about numbers. I want you to just tell me what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and then I'm going to go live my life and not worry about it unless you say, hey, this happened.
This happened. We need to come back in, reevaluate, and see what we need to change to continue for that goal, or maybe your goals change, or whatever it is.
And that happens too. Goals, life events change.
Totally.
You know, I mean, like you think of like talking about the losing a spouse. You lose a spouse. Well, now your whole plan, you know, is shifted. It doesn't mean it's shifted 100%, but we also have to budget for that. So two of the biggest things that happen is like your utilities don't get cut in half when you lose a spouse.
No.
And some people don't realize that.
Right.
Also, you go from a married filing jointly to a single tax bracket. That also hurts.
Yeah.
And so having a tax plan built into your plan is huge too, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And if you go back to that comment I said earlier, do you think, you know, taxes are going to stay the same, go up?
Right.
You know, that's going to be, what do I need to do to protect myself for this? What do I need to do to reduce as much risk as possible?
Right.
While planning, because I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, thankfully, because I don't think I'd want one.
No, I don't think so either.
No. But, you know, to reduce as much risk in your plan, that's what having a plan is for.
Yeah.
Improving your outcome, you know.
Improving that outcome.
Yes.
The planning ahead. Having said all of that, I'm still going to also want to say, whatever point you're at, start now.
Yes.
Like you can still start from here. You know, when I went into, I was like, I don't.
Well, and I like to give homework, so don't worry. Like when, for me, for example,
Yes.
if you come into me and you're like, I just get up the homework worksheet. I'm like, all right, you need to do this, this, and this, and
Yep.
this.
But you laid out so, you know, just like, here's 3 things. I mean, whatever it is, it's very doable. Like, okay, I can sit down, I can do that. Like you said, one bite of the elephant at a time.
Yes.
You know, where you just look at the whole thing, go, I couldn't possibly do that. But you can.
Yes.
And then you come back and you go, okay, we did these things, now we're going to do these things. And so you can literally start from here, whatever age you are, whatever financial situation you're in. But the earlier, of course, you know,
The better.
Yeah. Yeah.
The earlier it is, the smaller tweaks can make a bigger impact than you want to retire tomorrow and you just come to me.
Right.
That's sometimes working magic.
Yep,
but
that's probably not going to happen.
But even like the homework, to kind of recap on that, like, you know, if you don't think you know anything, which is fine because most people aren't always. I mean, you have a profession for a reason and I have one.
Right, exactly.
So like, for example, if you're one of those where you have this product and you have no idea why you have it.
Right.
I mean, I'll write verbatim that if I need you to call and get an illustration or info or something, you know, I'll say call and read this specifically, because then what happens if you don't do that, you call, they're going to ask you a question and then you're going to be right back.
And then you feel overwhelmed and flustered and you're just like, never mind, I
Be like,
can't.
I don't know how to do this. This is what she told me to do. So I write word for word what to
So
ask.
awesome.
So that way they know exactly, no matter what company it is, because every company, while everything's similar, has their own language, I feel like.
Yep.
So what I write down is the clearest possible point that you can get what we need.
That's awesome. And you wouldn't know that. I mean, I wouldn't know that. You know,
Right.
there's no way, because like you said, you have your profession for a reason. I have my profession for a reason.
Well, I learned that one the hard way. When people come back and say, well, they asked me this, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good question. So like if I
Well, and
can't,
that's where the experience comes in really handy
Yes,
too. You know,
yes.
is nothing against somebody new. You got to get your own experience, and that has value too. But experience does have value.
It
So,
does.
Like, I've been through this a few times. This is where I can go wrong. I'm gonna point you in the right direction and set you up for success.
yes. I have often been told, like, especially like a federal retirement, like, oh, you've done this before, haven't you? And I'm like, yes, I have. They look at
I
that
have.
set of documents and they're like so overwhelmed. And I'm like, doot, okay, done.
And you're just like, ah, it feels so good.
You did that.
That's what it feels like. You're just like,
But that's it. That sigh of relief is the most rewarding part for me, is when people slide their paperwork and they're like, oh, please
Yeah.
just tell me what to do. And
to
I'm
do.
like, well, do you care if I just had the shred pile in this? We'll scan this to your vault, so we've got it stored. You don't need anything else.
Yes.
We'll shred this. Like,
and all those tools are so great too. I know we
Oh.
could go on and on for hours, but the Generation Vault, I think that's what
Yes,
it's called.
that is what it's called.
It's just, oh, okay, I can just put my documents in and then they're all just there. And you know, sometimes I haven't looked at it for a month and I go back and it's easy to understand, it's easy to find everything, and then
Yes.
you can find everything and we
Yes.
can work together just brilliantly.
well, I call it like your online safety deposit box, like online postal box.
Yeah.
Like you can upload and take down as much as you need.
Yeah.
All the reports we generate gets put in there. I have market volatility, like monthly insights, so I don't
Cool.
spam everybody with what's going on in the world
No.
from the portfolio managers. I just, if you want to look, go here. Like
Yep.
it's kind of like your one-stop shop to see
Yeah.
everything that we do.
Yep.
Every piece of paper that hits my office, whether you bring it in or we write on it, it goes in there. Like,
Yeah.
and then that way, if you ever, because I don't know if this happens to anyone else, but if you ever say, what did we do?
Oh, yes, all the
Ooh,
time.
those appointment summaries are in there. And it
Yes.
says, oh, on January 5th, 1995, we talked about this.
You're like, oh yeah, I knew
Yeah,
that we did
yeah,
something in
yeah.
there. Yeah, which is so great because sometimes you forget. You're like, oh, this is so great. You leave, you go back to your life and your craziness, and then you're like, wait a second, what was my homework again?
Well, and it's overwhelming. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Like what's easy to me, like I'll just like say, okay, prioritize. Let's do this, baby steps.
Yep.
But it is a lot and it's overwhelming. And you're like, I know we talked about this and this, but what am I supposed to do with
so
that?
you can just go right back to that. So
Yeah.
so whether it's Veronica or somebody else, I mean, ask about those tools too, because I feel like that is huge.
It is.
Yep. And then when you
It's-
do have a minute and you're at home or wherever, and you're like, okay, I got these documents. You can just upload them and get them in, and
Yep.
like it doesn't have to sit there weighing on your mind for months either.
And I joke, you don't always have to go in there, but knowing it there is huge.
It is.
And like for like the life transition things, if something happened to you, you can give your kids access to it, so like they can get your
cool.
documents. Like if you have a health power of attorney, financial power of attorney in there,
And
you're
those
out
are
of
the
town.
things that you're like, I did one of those. What did I do with it?
Yep,
You know?
it's in your vault.
Yeah.
We
You
always
just
put it there.
easy
I always
peasy.
say bring stuff. If you don't have a scanner at home to do it, we do it for you so that
Yes.
it's in there. And then that way you're good.
It's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. And they have the best snacks.
I'm always working on adding some more fun to
Oh
that.
gosh, it's just always like, here, all the things you need. Oh yeah, you probably see my,
I was just gonna say that's a recent
yep, these I love. They're like, I don't know, you probably can't see the things on them, but
little positive sayings.
yes, enjoy every moment, strong, smart, fearless. So I keep them over, yes, I can do it. I keep them over here as motivation and stress balls. And also if those guys are too loud when I'm doing a interview, I chuck them in.
Oh, that's where you just gotta go back and get them.
I know, they're nice. So far they've given me them back, but they're pretty soft. So they're, but occasionally the newsroom gets a little wild. And I'm like, I can't hear, guys.
These were actually a happy accident because we had them in from a seminar that I did, and my son Easton, when he was at the office, he colored a picture for our clients, and then he asked them their favorite color, and he went and got them one. And I didn't realize it, but I paid attention the whole time. They're just going
it's something
like
about the
this.
star shape too that like you put your fingers. I don't know. It's just like it's way better than a stress ball. I don't know.
No,
it's just a really neat little guy.
And they were just talking about money, and apparently this made them feel better.
It does. You're just like, okay,
Okay, I can
do
this.
this.
Yeah.
So I keep them all over here.
Yep, so they're in my office too. If you get stressed out and you need that little extra encouragement, we got you covered.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Okay, like I said, we could talk forever. I think we've went maybe a half hour.
I think we did
I
too.
think
That's
so
good.
too. It is good.
But we'll do this every 2 weeks now. Every other
Yes.
week is our plan.
Every
so.
other week is the plan, and I think we'll be on it now that summer's over because both of our
Yes.
schedules were crazy in the summer, and so this will be great. So thank you again, Veronica
you.
Redfield from Fed Resource ND. I'm going to show you the website one more time. All right. Whoops, that's not the website. There we go.
And just so everyone
there
knows,
we
we
go.
added the ND because there's quite a few people who work with federal employees that aren't always from here. So I put the ND so people know I'm local.
That's good. Yes. Because,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure every state, on top of all of that being a lot, every state is different too.
Yes.
So, yeah. So if you're a federal employee in North Dakota,
If you want someone local, this is what that's for. So like I've had people from other states come, send emails, like clients say, who is this person? I'm like, I don't know who that person is. Like whatever. So that's why I put the ND on there.
Yeah. So yep, she's local here and wonderful. So
Okay.
thank you again.
Thank you,
Yes.
everybody.
And I'm Jessie Ammett, your host of Valley News Now.